Hi everybody, welcome to the channel, and thank you for joining me and for your continued support. It really does help with this channel, which is continuing to grow, so thank you for everyone who's supporting the channel. Right, so we all know that in the first however many days it is of this Labour government, there have been some hits made against the elderly and against the disabled and long-term sick. We know that they've taken a bit of punishment recently, but it looks as though that particular demographic of the elderly and the disabled and the long-term ill could well be facing another challenge, and that is in the term of taxes. Now, it was mooted around a little while ago that the government were thinking of putting a 20% levy on companies like Uber, and it's now currently in consultation. The issue that some charities are having, some disabled charities, some elderly charities, some of the problems they're having with it is that there are a lot of people who are disabled or elderly who use taxis on a regular basis to get to and from GP appointments, hospital appointments, therapy. They may get a taxi home from the shopping so they don't have to carry it all the way home, or they don't have to carry it on the bus, things like that. And they're saying that this will inadvertently and adversely affect the elderly and the disabled even more, and that it will be another hit to their being able to afford to do things, because 20% levy, with all of the bills going up, with everything going up, and with potentially the disabled losing a lot of money in their benefits, it could be the difference between going out and visiting the doctor or visiting the hospital and not going. So they are concerned that they're going to lose. Appointments are going to be missed. Conditions could not get treated because of this situation. And of course that is a very big thing, but I would say there's even more to this situation, because I think it affects everybody. I think it affects a lot of younger generation use companies like Uber. It's going to affect them. People who are working may use Uber. Perhaps they might use it to get to work if they're late, or they might use it to run an errand, or they might use it for something other business they might be doing, and they might not decide to use it. And so it's going to affect everybody, I think, but also in particular, if you've got someone who's been out shopping or been out at a party or been at someone's house and they get home and it's late, they got the last train home, and it could be that 20% levy could be the difference between them calling an Uber and not. It could be the difference between them getting a taxi home and walking home in the dark late at night, and potentially being the victim of crime. So I think this has a wider implication, because 20%, okay, you might say, well, that's not a huge amount, but to some people that might be the difference between getting a taxi and not. So I think this is it's a bit of a stealth tax, not just aimed at the elderly and the disabled, but aimed at everybody really. And it is under consultation. The government have said they are supporting drivers, but I don't think this is necessarily about the drivers. I think this is about people who use the service more than anything else, because if the government put a 20% levy on these companies, they're not going to just absorb it, they're going to pass it on to the customers. But anyway, I'd love to have your thoughts on this. Do you think it's a good thing that the government are considering putting a 20% levy on these companies, or do you think that it could actually have adverse results? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as always. Please do subscribe if you've got this far, and I'll see you next time.